I'm Nin Sambi and I'm going to tell you a bit about my MS journey. I was diagnosed with MS in March 2022 and everything happened really quickly for me. It all happened within a week, from initial symptoms on the Friday in February to then being diagnosed on the 4th of March, which also was a Friday, with RRMS. Because of COVID restrictions, I was by myself in hospital, and my family and friends couldn't come visit me on the ward, but I could actually go out and see them. But due to my limited mobility, that was really hard. So actually a lot of my journey in hospital was extremely lonely. And then any diagnosis or any information that was shared with me, I then had to relay that to my husband just via the phone. But it was the moment in which I actually was told my diagnosis that will always resonate with me. I was by myself on the ward and the doctor came over and said, "I think we should give your husband a call." So I FaceTimed my husband, and it ended up then the doctor taking over the conversation and saying, "We found from your MRI scans," and I'd had 3 that week. I'd had 1 on my spine and then 2 on my brain, one which didn't quite go ahead because I had an absolute panic attack, but that's a whole other story. But actually by the end of it then, after the 3 MRI scans, he turned around and said, "By the way, you've been diagnosed with MS, but you can go home, off you go." And I think my focus was definitely on the "you can go home" after being in hospital for a week by myself, and hadn't actually sunk in what he said about my diagnosis. And I don't think it really truly sunk in until I got home that night. The kids were in bed, my parents were asleep, and me and my husband were just settling down for the night. And I think I had that moment of just realization, of relaying that moment over and over again of when the doctor told me I was diagnosed with MS. And I cried so much, and I was crying for myself, I was crying for my husband, but I was crying for my children. I was crying for the future that I thought, or I imagined it was going to be, due to things I'd Googled or stories I'd heard. And actually, it was just, like I'd been hit by a truck. My symptoms vary day to day. I've got the most consistent things, which is fatigue. Oh my goodness, I get so tired. And as a result, I've had to change my job role and reduce the days that I work as well, simply because fatigue is just really prominent in terms of one of my symptoms. But also the numbness and the tingling, that is consistent. I constantly have shooting pains and numbness and tingling throughout different parts of my body. Now actually, if it just stayed in one place, I think it'd be a bit more manageable, but I kid you not, it moves from my leg and then it'll go to my arm and then it go to my hands, and it just continuously rotates around my body, and my pain threshold has increased. Gosh, if I was dealing with the pain that I am right now, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I don't know if I actually would have managed day to day. And I think you start to tolerate a lot more, and your pain threshold definitely increases. My eyes have always shuddered, and they move side to side, and it is really instant. Now I am being seen by an ophthalmologist just to investigate that a little bit more, but that's something else that affects me on a day-to-day basis, because it affects my concentration levels, and then it almost shifts my focus for a second. So that definitely something that it happens every day, and it's something that definitely does affect me on a day-to-day basis. Now, to manage my symptoms on a day-to-day basis, I do have aids. I've got aids around the house to support me. I take rest periods throughout the day. And I feel like the one thing that I'm really trying to learn is to listen to my body, and to really listen to what it needs and what it wants. And that has to and does go against what I want to do, because I've always said, and I will continue to say, that MS does not suit my personality. I've always been quite a 110 miles per hour sort of person, meet my children's needs, being there for my husband. And now all of a sudden, MS is almost just like being hit by a truck almost. And it has really affected my day-to-day and my personality. And yeah, it's something I'm still trying to adapt. My husband has been my biggest advocate. He's there to push me when I feel like I can't do any more. He's also there to tell me when to stop. And he's definitely somebody that is, he's just in my corner. He really is. He's there researching, fighting when I can't fight anymore, chasing up specialists and taking me to every single appointment, and just really listening to what I need, and also observing as to what he thinks I need as well, because a lot of the time I will just push myself and carry on, and he'll be like, look babe, you need to just take a bit of a break now, I'll do this instead. And yeah, he's definitely been my biggest support. Daily, I try and manage as best as I can. I do have walking aids to support me because sometimes my legs, they do feel like jelly and I don't have the strength to almost balance myself. So I do have walking aids. I've also got adaptive tools around the house to support me on a day-to-day basis. I've got like a stool in the shower. I've got adaptive kitchen utensils just to support me when I don't have the strength in my hands. I don't do a lot of cooking now just because I don't have the stamina to be able to do whatever I need to do and then do extra around the house. So the chef is my husband in the house now, and he's definitely learning some nifty little recipes to help along the way. But I do use adaptive materials as and when I need to. Self-care is definitely something I am trying to work on. Staying positive and motivated is definitely an element of my personality anyway. I've always been quite a positive person, quite an energetic person. So trying to stay positive and motivated in one way is quite easy, and in other ways is really, really hard, because as much as I want to be positive, I feel like sometimes there's so many stumbling blocks that just keep knocking me down, that I just feel like sometimes I'm constantly just fighting to keep my head above water. And it's definitely a challenge at times, but like I said, it is something that does suit my personality, because I feel if I don't have positivity and I don't look at the bright side, then you do end up then spiraling into this realm of negativity, and that definitely wouldn't help me, my progress, or my family. I did seek external support. I did have therapy to support me through really challenging times, and that was about a year ago now, I think, and it was a really hard time. And I'm 18 months into my diagnosis now, and I feel like I'm getting a little bit stronger with my mindset and coming to terms to accept. And that's just not accepting my diagnosis, it's accepting that I need to rest. It's accepting that I might need to use my walking stick. It's accepting that I won't be able to do a whole day at work and then come home and cook. There's a lot of acceptance, and it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's definitely allowed me to become a bit more self-aware and to really appreciate the little things in life. Give yourself time. Don't deny yourself of any emotions. I called the first stages of my diagnosis as I went through the stages of grief, and I feel like you do grieve. You know, I was grieving for the life I thought I was going to have. I was grieving for the life I was living, and then grieving for the future with my husband and my children. And so I feel have that supportive network around you that will just allow you to feel, and don't minimize anything that you are going through. Don't shy away from speaking out. One thing that I and my husband agreed with at the start was I wasn't going to hide my diagnosis. I wasn't going to pretend that everything's okay all the time. I wasn't going to shy away from telling people really what I'm going through. Now, some people will disagree with that. Some people are like, no, you should keep whatever's in your family private. And if that works for you, that's absolutely fine. But a coping mechanism for us is definitely speaking, and I feel like the more we speak, the more people will accept, and the more we'll be helping other people. So don't shy away from speaking the truth, and don't shy away from really expressing how you feel. I think we've spent so long in society being told we need to pretend everything's okay, you know, you can't share that anything's going on, and actually that isn't helpful. You know, we're going through a time where people are really struggling with their mental health, and so what we need to do is talk. So please do not shy away. That'd be my advice. Do not shy away from the truth. Do not shy away from what you're really going through. One of my coping mechanisms when I was first diagnosed was blogging, and that's why I created my Instagram account, Invisible Load of Life, to create that platform to be open and honest and transparent. And that's something that I will continue to follow throughout my page. It's something that will hopefully provide you with comfort, maybe some advice and tips to make you understand and be aware that you are not by yourself. And I completely understand what you're going through. I understand all our symptoms will be different, but if anyone's to understand potentially a little bit of what you're going through, it's somebody else that is living with MS. So reach out, talk to people and connect, because that is definitely something that has helped me through this journey. And I know I'm only 18 months in, and I know I've got the rest of my life, but actually right now I feel I'm in a position where I've accepted.